I think the most important thing I learned from doing it, I learned a lot from other Poshers about the logistics of the show and how it's going to go beforehand, but what I didn't learn until I was in the show. Hello YouTube, welcome back to the Every Closet. My name is Stephanie, and along with my trusty partner Ethan, we are two full-time resellers on places like Poshmark and eBay. In today's video, I want to talk about something that is so overdue me talking about, and that is live shows, or Posh shows, as they're called on Poshmark. Posh shows have been available to our closet since end of November, I believe, of last year. We scheduled a show for December something or other, and then we got really sick and couldn't do it. And I just never rescheduled another show because I didn't feel like it, and I was nervous, and I was honestly just putting it off, which isn't great business practice, but you know, I'm a human, that's what I did. And so finally, some very smart people were able to convince me that, hello, we are full-time Poshmark sellers and we have a channel on YouTube. We should at least try the Posh shows out, which was a very good point. We did one on Friday. It is now Monday, so I just really wanted to get this video out to you guys. My thoughts before were that the profits wouldn't be big enough, that I'd have to sell things for much less than I'm used to selling things for, that I would lose money on some items, and I was also worried, as everyone always is, you know, that no one will show up or that no one will buy anything. Thankfully for us, that wasn't a problem. We had some of our very nice Posh friends shout out our show, and so I think that drew a few people in. Also, we tagged it as a first show, which drew people in. I'm just not sure it was the right people it drew in, but that's okay, we'll get into it. I was just very hesitant about the live selling in general because, as you know, and I say it like twice a video probably, we have a higher cost of goods where we live. We don't have a bins that is feasible near us. We either have to cross a country border and pay import duties, or we have to do a 12-hour drive, which is a lot of gas, and then stay at a hotel, I guess, or something. So all of that adds a ton to costs, which means no very, very low cost of goods. We used to do the $10 bags a lot more. And so items that I got $10 for the whole bag of like 40 items, obviously those would be a good low cost of goods, but we've just slowly been transitioning into higher and higher cost of goods and higher average sales price items. It's just more worth it for like bang for your buck, dollar for your time kind of wise, and so that's why we've been doing that. But because we've been doing that, we're just not set up for Posh shows very well. But I was convinced to start one, and so we put in 50 things into the tray that we thought, okay, we've had these for a while, I'd be okay with letting them go for less than they're worth. That flew a little bit out the window during our Posh show, but first I want to share with you some information about Posh shows that I didn't know or that you might not know. So one is, I believe most full-time closets by now could get access on Canada if they signed up for it. If you didn't sign up for it, I'm not sure when it's just going to be available to everyone, but you can just still, I believe, go to the Poshmark blog website or something and sign up to be part of it, and you'll get access within a few days, I think. I think it's a bit slower on Poshmark US because I'm pretty sure we did apply to get access and haven't yet, so there are a lot more sellers on Poshmark US. So you can tell people what's gonna be in your shows by making listings go from your closet, or you can make a new listing called a quick listing. The quick listings don't even need photos because you're gonna be showing it on video. You just need a title. We didn't do any quick listing in our show because we did not have time to. We intended to do a few, but we didn't get to it. But yeah, those are the two places you can list from, and you can, like when you're quick listing, take a picture. It's just hard sometimes depending on like if you're running your show from a phone and from your laptop and your phone's recording you, then your phone can't take a picture at the moment, you know. The places where the little thing icon in the bottom right corner of your Posh show that says what's going to be in your Posh show or what's coming up next or whatever in your Posh show is called the tray. The tray, a lot of people can leave empty and just quick list and show people things as they're going. That's what a showrunner is doing when they're saying like, do you guys want me to run this? And if people don't want them to, they just don't even have it listed. So no harm, no foul, no work done. But then if people do want them to, they just quick list it with a title and run it right then and there. So that's good because then you can be a bit more flexible in your show than you can, like, say, in your closet. You need a full listing with description and size and everything. When you want to schedule a Posh show, you can go to the Posh show area of your app and you can just click schedule a Posh show. Then you just say when it's going to be and how long it's going to be. I know a lot of people who do multiple hours at a time. The most you can schedule it for is an hour, so we just put an hour, but we knew we might go over, which we did. It'll just count down until the show starts, and then as the show hosts, we were not able to join the show until the timer was fully down. So like, it's like 10 seconds to show, 9 seconds to show. It wouldn't let us click start show until that timer was out. So that's how it worked for us this time. I don't know if that was us having technical issues or glitches, or I don't know if I missed some sort of trick to get in earlier. Either way, that's just how it worked out for us this time. We had the, you know, self-facing camera, and we set it up in our office because I wanted to have good lighting. This place has okay lighting for video filming, but not for reselling and not for Posh shows. Like you guys seen when I do my hauls. It's definitely not something that you're like, ah, that's clear enough imagery that I could buy that item confidently and know how many stains or things are on it. No. So we did it in our big photo tent. And someone asked me during my show where we get the photo tent. So I believe this is linked in every video we have, but I believe we have Amazon affiliate links down below. And honestly, that tent would be a really baller one because it's expensive. It depends where you live. I think it's like $350 for Americans and $500 for Canadians. But my gosh, has it ever paid itself off in our business specifically. You can see the clothes very clearly. That's why we photo there too. We brought the things that we listed in our tray over from the storage unit to the office. And then we also brought over about 30 or so things that we were like, okay, if we go through all these 50 things, naive, then we can start doing these other things and we'll just quick list them. So I want to share with you guys some tips that some people gave me before the show. So one of the questions I had was, when I add things to my tray for the show and the show's in a few days, does it make those things not for sale on my Poshmark closet? The answer is no. So those things were for sale, and if someone buys it before the show, hey, bonus, and you can just swap that item out for something else. Although another tip I got was, my one friend says, because you're gonna wanna quick add things, and 50 is the max, she usually fills her tray up only like halfway or maybe 30 things maximum, and that way there's room for her to quick add things at the beginning of the show or as she's going. Another person in that vein told me that once something sells, you can swipe it left in the tray, or like drag it left, and that will show you how to delete it from the tray. So that's a good thing to do when you want to add more things to your show, but you have a bunch of solds. You can get rid of them by swiping them left, which is awesome. I also asked sort of how you run the show. I do think you need 2 devices. So we had my phone that has Poshmark Canada on it, on a tripod, and me like showing things. And then if you open Poshmark Canada or whatever one you're doing it on another app that you're signed into that same account on, we used a laptop and that worked well. I don't know if there's a way you can do it from just one phone. I think it's almost entirely necessary to have the 2 devices, because then you're constantly being videoed and then you can set things to go in auction. I'm not even sure if it's possible with just one device. So have 2 devices. It's more than a suggestion. It's very important. I also asked Instagram before I started, should I put what everything's going to start at before the show, or should I wait until the show and add those in on the fly? Now that I've done it, I would recommend adding those in on the fly. 1, because you might change your mind when you're live and in front of people anyway. And 2, I don't think the people can see what you intended to list things at or start the bids at. They can just see what you listed them for. It's just very easy to type in what you're starting it at as you're going. I would say just don't bother putting it in. It's just extra work before that you don't have to do. On Poshmark Canada, they do bundle for you now. And so that's amazing. We didn't have to put people with multiple purchases into bundles. They were just pre-bundled if they bought multiple things from the show, which was amazing. All the sales came through right when the show ended. Everything was marked as reserved during the show on our closet once someone had bid and bought it. And then it all switched to sold once the show was over and everyone's payments went through and things like that. A lot of people asked during the show if we would do closet clear out prices, and we did this time. And I'm not going to be doing it again. So it was a Friday, which means it was a closet clear out day, right? And so people were asking if I could like make a separate listing that would essentially encompass their bundle and then lower that 10%. And then if they had liked it, it would send them the closet clear out shipping. So a lot of people wanted that extra $3.50 or whatever it is discount on their shipping. I ended up doing that for just the ones who messaged me after the show about it, but I don't recommend doing that. It's time consuming, especially the more orders you get, it takes quite a while per bundle. And then your closet ends up looking quite messy. If you are deciding that you want to do that for people with the closet clear out discount, my suggestion would be, okay, I need you to like this and buy it, and then I will cancel your original bundle. Because, you know, we've all had cases, we've all dealt with buyers who go back on their word, and that I think is especially prevalent in Posh shows. So you want to be careful about that. And I think the most important thing I learned from doing it, I learned a lot from other Poshers about the logistics of the show and how it's going to go beforehand. But what I didn't learn until I was in the show was you need to have ground rules going into Posh shows, and you need to have confidence, and you need to not let yourself get swayed by the buyers. There's, you know, I'm sure there's lots and lots of glitches that people have had that people could tell you about. In Posh shows, I've heard there's lots of glitches. So the glitch we had was just that our tray completely emptied whenever we added something new to it. So we added the first new thing and then everything was gone except for that one thing. So people came into our show, it was our first show, and at first we were showing the things for like the first, honestly, 10 minutes. We were showing the things that we had planned to show and auction off, and then someone came in and they said, hey, I really want these, maybe a pair of Goldie jeans. So like, I really want these Goldie jeans from your closet. Would you run those? And I was like, first of all, we just listed those. And second of all, I don't know if you can do that. Everyone in the show in the comments encouraged me that you can, and yes, you can do that. So you don't have to have the item with you. We were really clear. I think we said it like 20 times. I was like, we don't have this with us. Look at the listing. It's a full listing because we listed it with the intention not to sell it live. So that's what you're bidding on. And then we started the bid at $50 where they had been listed for $100. The person who requested them bought them for $50. No one else bid. If there are requests and it's not an item that you know is super versatile, like especially like one size things or bags or things that like can kind of fit everyone, and if it's not something that's super popular either, you're probably only going to get the requester bidding on it. Which means, especially if you price it up, like if we had priced those, started the bid at like $10, I'm sure we would have had multiple bids just from resellers being like, yeah, I could sell a Goldie jeans for more than that. But because we started them at an actual, like, not a sourceable price, but just a huge discount, the only person who bid was the one who requested them. So I think that is common in Posh shows. And from there, since it cleared our whole tray, then everyone just kept requesting things from our closet. I'm actually pretty impressionable and people-pleasing, and I think that was another reason I was hesitant to do shows. But I knew this show might end up this way, and it did. People requested things. I acquiesced to the requests. I sold things for less than I intended to. And I think that that doesn't have to be what happens in Posh shows. I talked to a few friends afterward, and they were like, yes, so people especially flock to people's first shows. If your show is tagged first show, they'll like try and get basically for nothing all your stuff. Don't let them do that. So yeah, after those Goldie jeans, we just took requests for the whole rest of the show. The show lasted we started at 5 p.m. Pacific time and we ended it, I think, around 7:30 Pacific time. So it was about 2.5 hours. We had usually at least 30 people in the show. I think it peaked around 45 people at its highest, and near the end was dwindling to around 25. So that's when, and we stopped getting requests. That's when we decided to stop the show. So I think that was a good amount of time. We, you should have water was another tip I received, which we did, but I didn't drink it very often. And then also like maybe snacks. If you're doing an even longer show, you're gonna need a bathroom break. So someone who can sub in for you. I had Ethan running the laptop and I was showing the items. We switched quickly because people love seeing Ethan. So I was like, don't you guys want to see Ethan? And then I went and found an item in the closet that Ethan was having a hard time finding. It was fun. It was very easy to add things from your closet on the fly. It would probably be easy to quick list things that aren't listed. But again, we didn't even do that because even our whole tray got deleted and then people just were requesting things from the closet and they got increasingly ridiculous. First, someone requested a pair of Jimmy Choo shoes, and to be honest with you, those went pretty well. We auctioned them starting at $50 and they sold for $77. It's less than we've ever sold Jimmy Choo shoes for before, but they're also the lowest cost of goods Jimmy Choo shoes I've ever had. So it worked out in this scenario, but like, whew. And then I was like, oh, what are we doing? And then people kept stepping it up. Someone was like, what about those Katie shoes in your closet? And I was like, we could do that. Again, the requester bought it for what I started it at because I started them quite high and no one else was like, I'm down to pay that randomly today. Someone asked for the new Tiffany & Co. ring that we just posted this week and I was like, no. I didn't say no. I said, okay, I just posted that and it's a Tiffany & Co. ring. I would start the bidding at $150. I would say my major takeaways from the whole thing were don't let people push you into prices that you're not comfortable with. Know the prices you're comfortable with going in and stick firm to them. You don't have to sell everything in your show. A second takeaway is that it does, I believe, as multiple people have told me, give your closet a bit of a bump in activity for the day before, day after. We had a really good sales day the day before, and we had a pretty good one the day after, and then obviously the show was a very good sales day. In terms of dollars, not as much in terms of profit, but that is something we knew going into it. In future, if we're gonna do a show, I would source for the show and I would have like a list of ground rules and I would put that list of ground rules as its own listing and in the tray of all my shows. So I'd be like, sorry, I don't do closet clear out. It's very time consuming when multiple orders and I can't wait for like the next Friday or Sunday to sell you your bundle that affects my ship time. Other ground rules I'd have is like bids are supposed to be binding. So if someone in your show is like, I didn't mean to bid, I think that that's fine. I understand how that happens. Okay, this is controversial. This is controversial, but if someone is in your show and they're like, I didn't mean to bid that, but I won the item, you can choose to be like, all bids are binding, because they are. Or you can say, okay, I'm gonna cancel for you after the show. I'm going to auction that item again and the next highest bidder can have it. So that's what we did with one thing. And I was totally fine with that. But then after the show, we had some people being like, I wanna cancel this and I wanna cancel this. And I think that's where in future shows, I'll be holding firm with no, bids are binding. Otherwise, like if you win the item and then you don't want it anymore, it's now the show's over, so I can't keep auctioning it, right? I can't go to the next bidder and be like, do you want this? And then, yeah, if there are things that you weren't intending to auction off, I just think start them higher. Start them higher, and if the person who requested it or whatever doesn't want it, that's fine, but just be like, I know this is an auction and you want low prices, but I didn't intend for this item to be in the auction. So if you want it auctioned off, I'm starting it at where I'm comfortable selling it, because likely, I think whoever requested it is probably going to be the only person who bids, especially if you price it up, because people will jump on a really, really good deal, but people don't generally just like, oh, well, that's 50% off, but it's still $100. Like, no, people don't usually want to do that. So I think this happens. You know, it happens when you're selling, when you're dealing with the public. There's always bad apples and stuff. So we had one customer who I feel like I was stolen from. She requested a Moschino t-shirt that we had listed at $120. I started it at $30. I regret this deeply, but she requested it from our closet. I started it at $30. And after the show, she said, can you please price match the Moschino shirt back down to 30 where you started it because other people were just bidding to drive up the price and they didn't actually want it. So her having paid still like 70% off or something, $41 for it, she was like, can you please like price match it back to your starting bid of 30? I thankfully said no to that. You'll get people who try and jerk you around, I think probably especially in your first show. I think it's important to have policies going into it. I think it's important to have like, hey, this isn't that type of show. So like if people are like, start this at $5 even though it's worth $600, like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not a sucker. The whole thing ended up feeling like after we were done, I was like, oh man, everyone was so nice and so supportive was the main feeling I left with. And then the longer I sat with it, the more it felt like, was I just taken advantage of? So I don't want you guys to feel that way if you do your show. My main tip would be make sure like have a strong backbone. Don't let them make you do the closet clear out shipping discount if you don't want to do it. Don't let them make you put anything up for auction lower than you want to put it up for. So that is my takeaway. We sold a bunch of stuff that I intended to sell for a bit lower than I had it listed at because those were the things that I decided to put in the show. We also sold, I would say, about 4 main things that I highly regret selling for those prices. When I thought about it afterwards, I was like, I could have sent an offer for probably 1.5 times what that person just auctioned it at on my US closet, and I'm betting they would have gone. So like, I don't want you to have regrets like that. So make sure that like, you've already sent out your best offers on these items before you're auctioning them, or that you're sourcing for your Posh shows, which I think is the easier and better way to do it. It can be difficult, and when the people are there and they're complimenting you and they're buttering you up and they're like, you're doing great. It was a really great sales day, you know, like it was like $850 in sales or something when you added it all up. But yeah, when you break it down and profit-wise, just make sure you're thinking about that beforehand. Make sure you have ways to deal with the things that people are inevitably going to say and request. They're going to request all sorts of weird, wacky stuff. And I just want you to know, I think you need a bit of like a tough guy backbone to run these Posh shows and to not be taken for a ride during them. Unless you're sourcing at the Goodwill bins or like have Dollar Day at one of your thrift stores near you. So just try and know ahead of time, these are my margins, this is what's happening, I'm not going below that, I don't have to sell this today. Just because you're having a live sale doesn't mean you have to sell those items today. So will we do another Posh show? Yes. Will it be like the last Posh show? Oh no, 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 no. Someone also messaged me after she only bid on one thing and she was like, can you save this because the one item's not worth it to ship for the shipping cost for me, so can you save it until your next show and I'll buy something else? And I was like, we shipped that this morning. So no. But the answer would have been no anyway because that affects our ship time. Then I have to cancel it. You're probably not going to buy it again, knowing the request that you just gave me. And I don't know when my next Posh show is. How do you know you're going to buy something in it? And I don't intend to have another Posh show where I'm doing these crazy low starts. It was our first Posh show. I did it on purpose. I only mostly regret it. It can have good profit if you have a good way to source at low, low, low cost of goods. And they can also have a good profit if you're starting things where they belong being started. And like those Katie shoes, we did start them at $80, which I was comfortable with as a price to sell it at. That is what they sold for. So I was like, okay, if we're auctioning these, I'm starting them at my lowest. This is the lowest offer I would have taken anyway. And that is what it ended up going for, of course. They were size 6 shoes. They were very expensive. No random other person just popping into a Posh show is going to be like, well, I've been looking for these in that size and I'm willing to pay $80 randomly today, last second. No, it's the person who requested it is probably going to be the one who buys it. The whole taking request things will be less of a thing in our later shows. We will be sourcing for our Posh shows, but I do like a lot of things about it. It was fun. People were very nice. I do think there's a place for it on Poshmark and in business models. I do think there wasn't a place for it in our current business model, and if we're going to do more shows, we're going to have to go back to some sourcing that we used to do that was quite low cost of goods, which we can do. Yeah, I just want you to not feel a little bit like I felt, and I don't mean to sound ungrateful for the sales, because I'm very grateful that people showed up and people bought things, because there's always the chance that that doesn't happen. But I would take some of those sales back to have those items back. They're worth more than that. And I have complicated feelings about it. I knew I would. I knew I would feel this way. I went into the show knowing this would happen because I know our business model and that it doesn't align with how Posh shows are done yet. And also, if it's your first time doing a Posh show, the people in the comments will tell you, like, you're like, oh, can I do that? And they're like, yeah, just do it like this. So people are super helpful, super supportive in the Posh shows. That doesn't mean they're supportive with their wallets, but they're super supportive and kind in the comments, which is amazing because otherwise you'd feel quite horrible at the end of it. I felt quite good at the end of it and then slowly sat with it and was like, what just happened? I want you to have very low cost of goods for the items that you're auctioning. And if you don't, then I want you to start them where you need it to be for the profit. Especially because if you price things higher in shows, you'll likely only get a few bidders, which is fine if you started it at a price you're okay with it staying at. That was our update. That was our first Posh show. Hopefully some of these tips helped you and some of our experiences can help you not make some of the mistakes we did. And I'll let you guys know when we source for a Posh show. I'll let you guys know how the next one goes whenever it is. And otherwise, we will see you in the next video. And have a great time, and hit the subscribe button if you're curious how this journey is gonna continue, because I am, aren't you? I'm a little curious. Okay, bye.